Yo, what's good, guys? We are back. This time we're ranking the infield for set six. Some of my favorite infielders for the whole year. You're going to see this list is quite a bit different than the outfielders because infield is a much more specialized position. Most first basemen can only play like third base otherwise. Most third basemen can only play first or shortstop. Most shortstops can only play second base, etc. So it is a much more specialized position than outfield. Obviously, most outfielders can play the other outfield spots. Whereas with the infield, it's a little more specialized. So we did go over by a bit. If you see somebody is not on the list that you really like, feel free to comment it. I will get to it. But chances are they were just a hard cut because the infield is so loaded, and I can only have so many people that play one position at their best. Some guys I also left off, like Churio, because I think his best spot is in the outfield. You can debate whether it's center field or whether you'd rather have somebody else in center field, but it's not shortstop for sure. There are better options I think you can run, so he's not on the list. Speaking of better options, there are none other than Adley Rutschman. Switch hitter with basically maxed out contact, close to it. Doesn't even need the durability team to get there. One of the best value cards of the year if you went and grinded out that set 3 collection. Super nasty, will be the best catcher in the game without a doubt. Santander, I think, is S tier if you like a switch hitting first baseman. He is pretty much the best option available out of those. It's him and one other guy. So he makes S tier easily just off of that. Austin Riley, if you like his card, he's S tier for sure. I don't love the swing personally, so I'm actually going to knock it a little bit. But stats wise, he's basically perfect. Makes a durability team, becomes a max contact guy. Obviously, I'm not really accounting for those team boosts, but it's just worth mentioning that he does get that, and he's easily S tier, even with me not loving his swing if you add that boost. Harper, another guy that makes durability team, of course. As far as left-handed first baseman go, one of the better ones in the game, probably has the best swing out of those guys. It's just, it really comes down to personal preference when you're looking at that. Cal Raleigh, good option. I think he makes the arm accuracy team, if I remember right. I was looking at all the teams recently. He's very good on that team. Without it, he does lack a little contact. He's not really competing with Adley. If you want a switch hitting catcher, I would recommend Adley or a guy that we are about to see soon. Delgado, basically up there with Harper for best left-handed first baseman. It's just he lacks a little bit of power against lefties. Most of the time, you won't notice it. But if you do like his swing over Harper's, you can definitely argue that he's up there. Basically, a max out contact guy with no team required. Santana, I think as a catcher, he's A tier. He's not messing with Adley. As far as switch hitting catchers go, Adley solos. But if you look at him as a first baseman, he is extremely similar to Santander after you put him on the durability team. Without it, he is a little bit behind him in contact, but I think his power is better if I'm remembering right. So really, there's trade-offs. Some people like Santana swing more. Some people like Santander. They're basically neck and neck. If you want a switch hitting first baseman, I think they're both top tier options there. Speaking of top tier, Chipper Jones might be the best card we've gotten all year, and we had him basically day one of the game being out. Obviously, he wasn't acquirable day one, but he was in the database since day one. This card's disgusting. I cannot wait to not have to wild card him to have him in the lineup. He's nasty. Makes the shortstop team gets even better. Not a whole lot else to say. It's Chipper Jones. Bellinger, probably the best left-handed first baseman. So actually, I will drop Delgado. I did forget Belly. It's between him and Harper. If you put Harper on the durability team, he's basically Bellinger. That's how good this Bellinger is. Stats-wise, he is basically perfect. He's an in-game card and probably the best stats-wise Bellinger we've ever gotten. Corey Seager, top tier option at second base, top tier option at third base. You're not going to find many better. I'd probably stay away from playing him at shortstop. He won't make errors, and he's sure-handed, but he is very slow. Even on the shortstop team, it's going to limit his range. When you compare him with some of these top defensive options at shortstop, Biggio, worth mentioning just because of a contact-hitting fast second baseman. But whenever you lack power, you're not going to be very good in the show. Although I do think his swing's underrated, and he's not a terrible card by any means. Dansby, without any team boost, I think is just B tier. If you put him on durability team, he becomes max contact. If you put him on shortstop team, I think he makes durability. If you put him on the shortstop team, he gets insanely fast. You add some parallels. He's like an upper 90 speed guy with awesome contact. So that definitely bumps him up. But just base, I think he's fine. I think he's just kind of mid, and I think there's better options for sure. David Wright, stats wise at third base, as a pure right-handed third baseman, probably the best in the game. Especially put him on the shortstop team. He's like 99 speed, which is crazy for David Wright. But if you do enjoy those type of swings, I think he's up here. Me personally, I don't love the swing, and I didn't use this card a ton, although I did get him. But I do recognize that for a lot of people, he will be S tier. Ellie, um, possibly up here with these three or these other two guys for one of the best cards we've gotten all year. The de facto best shortstop on every God squad. And a lot of it is his offense. It's nice to have a switch hitting shortstop, but a lot of it is also his defense. His player model is crazy. He lays out for everything. He has a laser beam for an arm. There's not a whole lot you can't say about Ellie. This Ernie Banks, I think one of the most slept on cards all year. But without the team boost, I think he's just kind of B. He's like a 110 guy, power and contact wise. You put him on the shortstop team, he jumps up easily to being A or even S tier, depending on how much you like his swing. But without it, I think he is still there. Obviously, keep in mind, like B tier is not bad. You're still in the top 50 infielders of the year. I just don't think they're making God squads. Tatis, I'm going to knock him for his swing, but if you want to argue he's A tier, I can see it. Especially if you, I think this Tatis makes, I know he makes cover athlete. I don't know if he makes Cal. And obviously he makes the shortstop team. I did the charisma one because not only are his hitting stats just better, but he is defined as a shortstop in the game. So he's not losing 5 fielding and 5 reaction for having to play there like the monthly one. So if I was to run a Tatis in the infield, it would be this one. Um, Lindor, again, I mean, you can go back and forth and argue kind of which Lindor you want, if it's the WBC one or if it's this one. I think this one has more power, but I think maybe lower clutch and lower contact against one side of the plate. But it's really up to you. It's kind of personal preference at that point. Freddie just doesn't compete with a lot of these other left-handed first basemen. A lot of people like his swing, and obviously he has basically every hitting quirk. But the power shows, right? He has like 90s to like 100 power, something like that, if I'm remembering right. Maybe it's up to 105. You can see 115, 100. So Delgado has 125. I'd rather use Delgado. I like his swing more anyway. So I think that drops him. He's not messing with a guy like Bellinger or Harper. Jackie, basically the exact same as Craig Biggio. Again, not really going to rank guys with no power high when we're at the end of the year and there are so many insane options. Second base is probably the best position that you cannot have power at and still bring value to a team. But I just don't think Jackie's really that guy. Fox, if you want a right handed first baseman, basically the best in the game. Um, Basically, on durability, he's about 125 everything. And then without it, I think he has like 115 contact against one side, but everything else is 125. So he's still super nasty. If you like those old timey swings like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox has that type of swing, and he is nasty. Rollins is in here. I think stats wise leaves a little to be desired. He's very much so like these guys where he doesn't really bring a ton of power, but he is a switch hitter and he is very fast if you do value speed. It's just I have shortstops I'd rather use. If you ask me a short switch hitting shortstop, I'd rather have. I'm going to take Ellie over him. If you want to bump him to A, then I wouldn't complain too much. I do probably like him a little bit more than Lindor personally. But I think there is an argument to be had, and I could see either side of that. Mauer, if you want a left-handed catcher, he is basically the best in the game. It's just why would you want him when you could have Adley? But I know there are some people that really enjoy Mauer, and he is statistically S tier. I think stats-wise, he's still the best catcher in the game. So he is definitely worth a mention there. J Ram, probably the only third baseman that you are going to argue with me about being better than Chipper, possibly. Definitely bats better than Chipper for my team, but keep in mind, I do run him on the shortstop. I do run him on the durability team. Doesn't need to be on those teams to be S tier. He is absolutely elite. His swing's great. He's a midget, so he has a small strike zone. It kind of helps with the batter's eye. And honestly, I don't notice the defense. When I used him, I played him at his primary of third base. He had that diamond shield for me, and he made a lot of plays. So I love J Ram. Probably, possibly my favorite card of the year. Uh, Bohr, Josh Donaldson, I think he's top tier as a right-handed first baseman. It's just the stats leave a little bit to be desired. If you're running him as a first baseman on the shortstop team or a third baseman on the shortstop team, then he's great there, and he basically is a max contact guy, and he's easily S tier. But without all that stuff, I like him as A. I like his swing a lot. He has, I believe, some very good quirks, but leaves a little bit to be desired stats wise. Basically, if you're an S tier, you're basically a perfect card in my eyes. This Marte, I went again with this Marte for the speed over the slight bump in power that the milestone one has. If you want to argue the milestone's better in the infield, I see your point of view with that because you're trading, I think, like 10 power for 20 speed. In the outfield, I think it's a no brainer. This one's better. In the infield, you can argue either way. Just kind of depends on your personal preference. Really, Marte's kind of played the same for me all year. Stats wise, I don't think the Simeon's necessarily S tier. If you want to argue it, then you can. I think on the durability team, on the shortstop team, because he makes both, he easily is, right? This is 125, this is 125. Awesome power. You're not going to get better power out of too many second basemen. And max out clutch. And this is not a slow Simeon card. You could parallel him all the way up, give him 95 speed, and then throw him on the shortstop team. And he would be a 99 speed guy at second base. So on the shortstop team, I think he's S tier. I think he's possibly the best second baseman in the game. Without it, I think he leaves a little bit to be desired. I'd rather use a guy like Marte there. I'd rather use a guy like J Ram or Ellie, any of those guys there, or Seager. But he is very close. Or this guy, Matt Carpenter. Not going to play the best defense of second base. He's going to play passable defense to even, somewhat good defense at second base. But the bat is just crazy. There is not another second baseman you're going to find other than like Corey Seager that hits the ball like this. He is almost a max contact guy. Power against lefties leaves a little bit to be desired, but it is basically max against righty with max clutch. And you see the reaction is not bad. It will be a 79 at second base. It would be 84 at third base. Really, it's the swing. This is possibly the best left-handed swing I've used all year. It's definitely up there, and I think it's definitely a top 5 lefty swing of the year. Matt Carpenter's always super gross in the game. I'm glad we got this card because he is nasty. Matt Holliday is basically kind of an evolved version of Josh Donaldson. You're trading some of the raw power that Donaldson has, because I think he's 125 power against lefties, for a guy in Matt Holliday who's a max contact guy. So on a higher difficulty, Holliday is going to be better for most people, unless you're running Donaldson on like a shortstop team. Miggy, I'm not putting in S tier. I just don't like his swing, honestly. There's a lot of people like that. This Miggy's basically statistically the best first baseman in the game. One of the better ones we've probably ever gotten, up there with like that 700 home run club Pujols from last year. But in general, I just don't think he's really up there with how bad his swing is. Miggy Sano, super slept on card at first base, at third base. I think at first base, he's A tier. I think he's up there with Josh Donaldson for like the best right-handed first baseman you could possibly be running. But I think the defense kind of kills him if you're going to play him at third base, so I will drop him for that. But at first base or as a DH, he is an elite option. Napoli pretty much is Jimmy Fox. It's just kind of whose swing do you like more. They're both basically 125 guys on offense that play slightly subpar defense. So really, they're both top tier options. It's just kind of who do you like more. I think most people usually like Jimmy Fox's swing more, but both of them are kind of divisive. Mookie, S tier, easily. I'm sticking to my guns. I think the finest one is the best one to run in the infield, um, just for the maxed out power potential. I will easily trade like 5 contact after you add parallels to this card, for like 10 power, or it's more than that actually. I think it's like 10 against lefties and like I don't know. I don't know. It's a good power swing for a little bit of speed that you're not really going to notice at second base too often. I think that's the best Mookie you can play at second base. I think he's possibly the best second baseman in the game. Nolan Jones, really good. I don't know if he's competing with Delgado. I think he's on a very similar level to him. I'd rather use him than Freddie Freeman. So I think for that reason, I'll keep him in A, but I could be persuaded either way. Ozzy. Ozzy's up there. It's basically Marte, but you're trading a little bit of speed, and some overall defense, I would say, for a smaller strike zone, which is always a positive. A better swing slightly. They're both switch hitters, obviously, and you're getting a little bit more power potential with Ozzy, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this Marte is like 95 to 100. So he's 103 and 101. I know that Ozzy is basically maxed out against one side of the plate power wise. So you're trading a little bit of contact against one side for a lot more power against another. You're losing a little bit of speed. It's really personal preference, but I think these guys are 1A, 1B for switching second baseman. Devers is up there, has an argument as to which Devers you would use. If you're on a higher difficulty, I would use this awards one. If you are on a lower difficulty, I would use the finest one because he just has more power. Royce Lewis, I think, is very good as a third baseman. He's very similar to Austin Riley, in which he has basically a swing that I don't really mess with too much, but stats wise, he's up there, and deserves his spot. Tim Raines, is basically one of these guys, right? He is not a ton of power, but what saves him is he's a switch hitter. So I think he's up there with Rollins. I think they're two very similar cards. I just think Tim Raines, honestly, his best position is second base because of the power, right? There's not too many other second basemen other than a guy like Mookie or Simeon that has more power than this. You're looking at 95, 100 when you get him super factored. So those are respectable power numbers, but when you compare him with basically everybody else on this list, you're going to see that is towards the bottom, and that's what kind of kills him. Trey. As a shortstop, I would not rank him that high just because the defense isn't really there. The speed is there, which is nice, but he does have a little bit of a noodle arm, especially when you compare him with Ellie, right? Ellie is the de facto S tier shortstop. There's no other shortstop in the game that's messing with Ellie, and for that reason, I don't think Trey's S tier. As to which Trey you should use, I go back and forth all the time. The World Baseball Classic one has more clutch. This one has more power. This one has better defense off rip. There's very minute differences, and it's kind of up to you, what you want to do with it. Vinny, top tier at third base, basically already has perfect hitting stats. If you throw him on the shortstop or durability team, then he is a max out hitter pretty much. So I love him for that reason. His swing, it's hit or miss. A lot of people would say it's just kind of an average swing. But he is a very good card if you do own that card, and I think he's up there for third baseman. It's just, the other ones are Corey Seager is basically a perfect offensive card, and then J Ram and Chipper are both shortstops, so it's kind of hard to be better than them. Vlad, I'm going to put in this kind of right-handed first baseman conversation with Miggy, Matt Holliday, Josh Donaldson, Austin Riley can all play first, and are all right-handed. It's just Vlad statistically wins out against most of these guys other than Miggy, but similar to Miggy, I just don't really mess with the swing. There's a lot of people that hit really well with Vlad Jr. cards, and whenever I play anybody with them, they rake with them, but I've tried to use them over the years, and I think it's just a normal to slightly below average swing, and I don't really love it for that reason. I think it kind of holds him back from being one of those top tier guys. As far as right-handed catchers go, it's Contreras, it's Fox, it's Napoli. I think they're all neck and neck. I think most people will probably find William to have the best swing just because I feel like Fox kind of is more of a niche swing. You have to like that type of swing. And Napoli, I've been saying all year, just has one of those slow swings I don't really love. And then I think Will Smith has the best swing out of these guys, but the stats just aren't really there. I use this card in events. I hit like 550 with him. It's just the power is very noticeable. You hit a lot of lineouts with this guy. And keep in mind, I'm saying that about 101 and 108 power, and I had some parallels on them in that event run. So you can only imagine how much guys like Jackie, Biggio, and Tim Raines and Rollins, low power guys like that, fly out. You want power, especially when you get to higher difficulties. You want to get rewarded for your swings, which is why power is super duper important in this game. But yeah, guys, that is the infield list. There was some really hard cuts. I guess this is just not going to load at the moment, but you can see it's a little bit late. So I'm going to wrap this up. But if you guys did enjoy it, I would urge you to like, and if you have not already subscribed and you do watch the channel on the regular, I would urge you to subscribe also. Until next time, peace.